talking Villanova football with head coach Mark Ferrante. I'm Steve Pannone. We're coming to you live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. And on Saturday night, the Wildcats traveled up to Lewisburg, Pennsylvania to take on the Bucknell Bison. They come away with a 45-10 victory. Wildcats improved to 3-0 on the season. And, Coach, your defense got you started again.
Yeah, no, that was an unbelievable beginning to the game. You know, this is the third game in a row where we had an interception return for a touchdown, which I don't know if Villanova has ever done that before, 3 consecutive games to have an interception return for points. But they scored first. You know, the other 2 games, I think we had an interception in the second quarter, if I'm not mistaken, and, you know, put the points on the board. But this was the third play of the game. So we came out of the locker room. They took the ball. So we started out on defense, and it looks like our coaches had those guys prepared big time because we actually almost intercepted the first pass, almost intercepted the second pass, and then on the third play of the game had a tipped ball, and it went to Jaquan Amos. He corralled it after the tip and then ran it into the end zone, and it was really fun to watch on film because at first I didn't think there was any way he was going to get to the end zone, but a lot of our guys on defense really rallied and got in front of him, made some really nice blocks, and, you know, it was like the whole team effort getting that ball to the end zone. So after the third play of the game with under a minute already off the clock, we put points on the board, so that really enthused the sideline for sure.
And then your offense takes over. Daniel Jones is a Giants fan. Daniel Smith, Daniel Jones in the news today, so I'm thinking there, but Daniel Smith, your quarterback, once again spreading the ball around, gets a touchdown pass to Summers. You know, he goes to Hodge, so you get Boykin later on in the game, and it's kind of been a consistent theme all season with your offense, spread the ball around. Consistent running game with Covington and Jackson in the backfield, and then Smith finding guys out there in the open.
Yeah, and I did know you were a Giants fan, so I don't know if you should have shared that with all the Eagles fans around here.
Most people do know, unfortunately.
But anyway, Danny Smith has done a great job so far. We've been able to, like as you said, spread the ball around. We have a lot of different guys making plays for us. He threw 3 more touchdown passes to 3 different receivers, and then he ran for 1 later in the game. It was actually a pass play, but he pulled it down and was able to get into the end zone. So, it's been good. We've been spreading the wealth. Guys have been coming up and making plays, and Dan's done a good job managing the game. You know, he does take some deep shots, so his percentage as far as completion percentage isn't the greatest because he does take some shots down the field on those lower percentage throws on the go ball. But as far as getting the ball, distributing, and knowing where it's going to go and taking what the defense is giving you, he's doing a really nice job with that.
And you did have the 1 turnover early in the game, relatively early in the game, and your defense was able to step up and get a stop and turn the ball over on downs.
Right, yeah, that was a tip ball on our part, you know, and anytime the ball gets tipped, it's up for grabs, and, you know, a lot of times if it gets tipped at the line of scrimmage or at the linebacker level, then you have multiple defensive guys with an option to come down with the recovery, and and to their credit, they tipped the ball, and their linebacker made a nice diving play on the ball, and that was the first turnover of the season we had, so, you know, hopefully we can do a good job as we've been doing the first 3 weeks and, protect the ball on our end.
You go in the half up 28-0. You come out and score right away. Des Boykin catches a 13-yard pass to go up 35-0. You have an opportunity now to maybe rest some of your starters, give some of your younger guys an opportunity to play, you know, in the third and fourth quarter. Talk a little bit about maybe some of your depth and some of the guys that, you know, earned an opportunity during the week in practice and got to be able to go out there in the game and show themselves.
Right. Well, when you look at it on offense, it's always good. First of all, it's always good to be able to get as many guys game experience as you can. And when you look on offense, you know, the 2 main ball carriers in the first few weeks of the season obviously been Covington and Jalen Jackson. D. Will Barley, our freshman from Episcopal Academy, was able to get some touches in there, and he took 178 yards for one of the scores, so that was good to see from a young freshman. You know, he's able to turn the jets on and have that third gear and get the ball to the end zone, and those type of things. And then we had a couple guys banged up in the secondary, so Ice Waxter is another guy who's a true freshman who played the majority of the game at corner, and he did a really nice job. And, you know, Elijah Trent, we've talked about him before on the show, but he played the other corner. So we had a couple of our corners that we were able to get off the field and, you know, hopefully save them a little bit and keep them fresh. And Ice Waxter and Elijah Trent did a phenomenal job stepping in there and doing a good job from that perspective.
And we're going to have Ross Pennypacker join us a little bit later. And we talked last week when Ola Adams was on about the depth and rotating his guys in the defensive line. So a lot of his guys have been getting minutes and now they got a chance to even get more reps up front.
Yeah, just a lot of teams, you know, they're going to rotate the D linemen, try to keep them as fresh as you can. And, you know, I know that Ross does a great job rotating guys through, and we do a little bit of that at linebacker as well. Our depth isn't as good in the secondary, so to get those guys, as I just mentioned, the younger guys added game reps is really going to help us as the season progresses, because you got Amos back there who's a seasoned player, and you got Benford who played all last year as a freshman. Now he's a sophomore, and we have the older guys, Chucky Smith, Julian Williams, guys that have played and have been, they're seniors for us and fifth-year guys, so they have experience as well. But it's always good to get the young guys an opportunity just to build that depth for when you need it down the road, because it's a long season and we play in a tough league, and league play starts this week, and I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But we just, every rep these guys can get is invaluable, because no matter, and I've said this a million times before, no matter how much you practice and how many reps a guy gets in practice, it's nothing like game speed. And even when you go good on good in practice, that helps with the speed for sure, but it's practice. It's not, when you're in the game and the adrenaline's flowing, it's just a faster game. And, with those guys have an opportunity to get in there and get those reps, that's going to really help us down the road to build out a depth in all the positions.
Coach, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll come back. We'll finish up on the 45-10 win over Bucknell. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. Tonight's show is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer, brewed for more taste and only 96 calories. Miller Lite, hold true. Back with more Talking Villanova football after this on 610 ESPN. Welcome back to Talking Villanova football with head coach Mark Ferrante. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. And Coach, we talked about the touchdown pass there to Todd Summers. And you talk about depth. Simon Bing Ellis has been out the last two games, an opportunity for Todd to step up, and he's done a really good job for you.
Yeah, Todd's done a great job. And, all the guys have been doing a great job filling in when we've asked them to fill in. And, I think Todd, I think he's the first person on our team to have multiple touchdowns. Him and Dez, I think, and then
Yep.
Danny when he ran his in. Because as we talked about last week, our first two games we had 10 touchdowns that
10 different
10 different people. And actually, now that I'm thinking about it, Jaquan, a defensive player, is the first guy that's had 2 touchdowns because he scored the opening points of this past game and he had the interception in the first game.
Usually that's a bad sign when your defensive player is the first guy to get 2 touchdowns. For you guys,
that's
a great
good
sign.
It's a good sign. If our defense wants to keep scoring, I'm good with that. If they want to keep outscoring our opponents in the first half, I'm more than fine with that. And if that trend continues this week, we'd be happy. So, but no, they've been doing a great job. Todd did a great job. He had a huge play called back for a penalty, and it was one of those. I guess you got to call the call by letter of the rule, but it's almost one of those calls where
You've seen them not get called.
You hope the refs look the other way, because what happened was Todd was an attached tight end, so he was in the normal tight end position, and Boomer, our other tight end, was split out as a number one. So the corner's covering Boomer. Boomer comes off the ball and kind of engages in a block, and you're allowed 3 yards.
Yep.
Right? Well, he was still engaged when the ball was released in that 3.5-yard area, but it didn't have anything to do with the play that was happening inside over the middle of the field. And Todd ran, it was probably a 70-plus yard play that got called back. And then the very next play, Dan Smith ran the ball for 60-plus yards, and that got called back for a hold downfield, which you're going to get those.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. Is it not a hold? This, that, and the other thing. But it depends what angle of the film maybe you have and what you're looking at. And the referee's got to make a decision live. They don't have the luxury of seeing two different angles that we see when we watch our game film and slow motion and all that stuff and replay. So, so those are two big plays that got called back. But Todd's been doing a great job. The running backs, D. Will, as we talked about, did a great job. Des Boykin scored his second touchdown of the season. So those are the guys that have multiple touchdowns for us now. And like you said, on defense, we're just rotating as many guys through as we can to keep them as fresh as we can. And, you want to get those guys up front playing fast and linebackers to be able to fill and, be aggressive. And our secondaries, we put them on an island every now and then and have them play man-to-man just so we can get added pressure on the quarterback. And it's been working pretty good for us so far.
And, Coach, you talk about the depth, and we mentioned, D. Will Barley, who breaks off a 78-yard run as a true freshman, an outstanding play. Just, and once he got ahead of steam, no one was catching him. It was nice to see his kind of breakaway speed, 20, 30, 40 yards down the field where guys weren't able to run him down. But, he's just right now with Justin and Jalen, he's kind of your third string. I don't call him third string, but your third running back. He's getting opportunities in the game. But, how does that work for practice? How many carries? We always talk about reps for quarterbacks. They need reps and reps. If you're your third ball carrier, what's D. Will Barley's week like in practice?
Well, for the first 2 weeks of the season, he's rotating down on scout team. Okay. We had him and TD Ayodurajaye playing.
I'll let you say that.
Yeah, okay. They're both kind of, going as that third running back position, but we also have to give a look to the defense, so they alternated on the ends of the field for scout team. So, it's been interesting because, he's running half the practices in the first couple weeks. He's running the opposing team's offense based off of looking at a card and, following the drawing and so on. And then he's got to come up and still stay in tune with what we're running and what our calls are. And to his credit, he's been able to manage both. And when he got his opportunity this past weekend, he definitely capitalized on it and, got a touchdown scored because of it.
And then you got an opportunity to get Jack Shetlick in the game in the second half. Daniel Smith takes the rest. You guys kind of have the game well in hand. What did you see from Jack? A chance for him to get some game action.
Yeah, Jack's going in there, and he's getting most of the number 2 reps. And we give Kadir, who's played for us last year, some time. Give him some practice reps as much as we can. And as you just mentioned, it's almost impossible to give two people, the starter and the backup, adequate number of reps to be prepared for the game, because the starting quarterback, especially that position, gets the bulk of the reps when you're doing your team periods, and the backup and then the third team guy, if you want to call it that, get limited reps. So, and by the time we put Jack in, the game was kind of under control, so we're not going to have the wide open offense that we're going to have when it's earlier in the game. So it's kind of a limited play menu, and things of that nature. You still want to run your offense to give them experience and give them opportunities. You don't want to just, lock it down totally and just call it run plays. But, Jack's doing a good job in practice, so we're hoping that he'll continue to, just develop and just continue to be ready just in case you need him at some point in time. But, it's hard to get that many people the adequate number of reps you need to be a full-time player.
And you mentioned even with Daniel, he's a first-year quarterback in your program, so it's not like he's, he's an older player, but he's your first year in your system. It's not like he's had 3 and 4 years of reps where he's got this thing all figured out by that, so he obviously needs reps as well as your starter.
Yeah, he probably will get more than, if he was a 3-year starter in our system.
Sure.
This is his third year as a starting quarterback, but like you said, the first year in our system, so you want to make sure he's getting the bulk of it just so he can stay sharp and learn what we're doing.
Okay, Coach, we'll take a quick break. We'll be back with Assistant Coach Ross Pennypacker is going to join us after this break. We are live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. Tonight's show is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer brewed for more taste and only 96 calories. Miller Lite, hold true. Back with more of Talking Villanova football after this on 610 ESPN. We're talking Villanova football with head coach Mark Ferrante. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. We're joined by, in his fifth year with us, your special teams coordinator, coach, your defensive run game coordinator, and also your defensive line coach. And he's going to take all credit because it was that defensive pressure that forced that quick pass that Jaquan picked off and ran in. We're joined by assistant coach Ross Pennypacker.
Yeah, Ross, good to have you here. Appreciate you joining us tonight. And I'm going to start out with this question here because when I went from, coaching a position, offensive line, and then becoming a head coach, people asked me, and still ask me in my third year, how different are things, how different is practice, this, that, and the other thing. And I know you've been a defensive coordinator at previous stops, and then, most recently with us, our D-line coach, and now you have the responsibilities of being the special teams coordinator. So how different has that been from a year ago, 2 years ago as the D-line coach to now coordinating the special teams?
Well, I'll just start by saying football is football. It doesn't matter what position or what. You just always try to figure it out. And I think you told me that, actually. But I will say coaching the special teams has been an eye-opening experience because you get to work with the entire team. It's not just spending most of your time with one group or just one side of the ball, but you get to know, some of the guys on the offensive line or, the wide receiver group. And it's been a great experience, still learning a lot about the guys, but overall it's been out of my comfort zone a little bit, but it's been really good for me personally.
Right. And then, so getting back to this week's game, right? We're hyping up Bucknell's punter, who is a really good punter, and he's an All-American. And then our own punter, Nate Fondacaro, we put a little pressure on him, and he performed well.
He did. He banged a 75-yard punt. If we were backed up anymore, it probably would have been longer because it rolled about 5 yards deep into the end zone. So that was great to see. And, he rose to the challenge. Coach Colangelo, I know the guys in the team meeting earlier in the week know what I'm talking about. He kind of pumped up that punter from Bucknell a little bit. But it was great to see Nate have a great game. We're all happy for him.
Yeah, he's done a good job. I think the numbers were, so the Bucknell guy average per punt was 51 yards.
Wow.
And Nate's average per punt was 51.4 yards.
I got him.
That 75-yarder definitely helped that average. And
I'm sure he would say to us, you said if we were backed up 5 yards, that's 80. You know, I would have had 80.
Yeah, and it probably would have rolled 80. Unfortunately, on a 75-yard punt, it rolls in the end zone, so it's only a 50 net, because it comes back out to the 25. So it didn't help his net because it's almost like having a 20-yard return, a 25-yard return against you. So.
And Russ, I got a question for you. This is showing my novice ability here in terms of, obviously, in terms of your return game, you're putting your faster guys. How do you guys decide the other 9 players? Who's going to be up in that front line? Who's in that second tier? We know you're going to have, a Des Boykin back there, or somebody with some speed to run the ball, usually a running back or a wideout or a really quick defensive back. How does the staff come together and say, hey, these are the other 9 guys we need to block or to go cover plays?
Well, I can start by saying this. On our punt team, that's the one we spend the most time on, and we try to make sure that we've got the guys that we can trust the most on the punt team. If you look at our punt team, it's filled with a lot of seniors. Jaquan Amos is on there. Christian Benford was on there. Just guys who are guys that we can really, really count on. And it's a lot of our defensive starters. And then on our other coverage unit for kickoff, again, a lot of our defensive starters. So what we try to do, just so we're not, burning guys out, is we tried to put all the defensive starters on one coverage unit. So we have a lot of our guys on punt, and then we have a lot of our defensive starters on kickoff as well. As far as kick return goes, we just find guys who we know can get the job done. Guys we can trust. I mean, that's the biggest thing. Just finding guys that we can count on, and we know that special teams are important to them. I know we have a saying in our room that we go over every day, and that's the kind of the thing that we try to harp on. Hey, special teams got to be important to you. This is a job. You may have a limited role, but do your job, get it done, and we just try to find the guys that we know we can count on.
And, Coach, it does for a lot of guys, right, become the first opportunity for some that they get on the field. They might not be starters, and here's a chance, hey, I'm getting on the field in special teams. Here's a chance for me to show Coach Ferrante, Coach Pennypacker that maybe I can get on there on defense.
Right, no doubt. And, guys definitely take advantage of that. Our next guest that we'll have coming up here, that's kind of how he got his claim to fame, if you will, and probably why he's been elected captain, because he does everything right, and we'll talk about that when we have Chucky up here. But he's been a huge special teams player for us. He's on the punt team, he's on the kickoff coverage team, and those type of things. And Ross was saying, we want to make sure, especially on certain units and on everything. I mean, offense, defense, and special teams, but people we can trust. You want to make sure you trust the guys, and we actually call our depth chart and the special teams team the trust chart. Okay, see where you are on the trust chart, and then that's how we build our depth from there. And we have it posted every morning because there's moving parts on that. Sure. Sometimes. Sometimes if there's an injury or something like that, you're going to hold a guy back on the special teams and then add another guy in. So every morning, that is the first thing they see. Our special teams meeting is the first thing we do every morning, and when they walk in, it's already up on the screen of the trust chart, and guys are looking for their name when they walk in the room before we even get started with any of the type meetings that we have planned for that day.
It's really interesting for I think people's focus so much on offensive defense or maybe that missed field goal late in the game. People say, special teams is important, but you really don't see it with you talk about the difference in punting game when you can go and match an All-American punter for field position is such a big part of the game. It kind of I don't want to say it doesn't go as noticed as some of the other things, but obviously it's important to the program, and obviously Coach Pennyworth's done a great job through 3 games with his group.
Yeah, those are the hidden yards, the things that, maybe the layperson doesn't notice. But, if you're backed up on your own 15, 20-yard line and you can get that 50, 60, in some cases 75-yard punts, it flips the whole field. And, people put up charts all the time. It's a lot harder for an offense to drive the ball 80 yards to get a touchdown than it is if they start at midfield or something like that. So the return game, setting up field position is huge. The punting game, flipping the field like Nate has been able to do for us is huge, and those type of things. So it just helps everybody.
And Ross, I think you see this at all levels of football, at least as a fan who watches it on TV and attends high school and college games. The amount of penalties on special teams. It seems in the, it's the illegal blocks in the back, the holding. It just seems that you see it in pro football, you see it in college and high school. I guess your thought process, obviously as a coach, you don't want to see penalties, but I guess it's because there's so much open space. Why does it seem to be, to the naked eye, more penalties on special teams?
Well, I think it's because most of the penalties you see on special teams are blocking in the back.
Yeah.
And I think guys are trying to do a good job of, or at least it looks like it, trying to get hands on, and sometimes those guys' backs get turned and they run them by. And I think the referees sometimes are a little bit, they get a little bit anxious on special teams as well. But, we try to work that. Those are the drills we try to work. We've actually repped that specific drill. We try to not block guys in the back. But, they're aggressive penalties. That's what it comes down to. They're not, they're not procedure penalties like, that you see on special teams. They're just aggressive penalties, and that happens just like holding, holding on offense or, pass interference on defense. They're aggressive penalties, and, it just happens.
And those are the guys, as you said, sometimes it's their first opportunity to be on the field, so they're amped up.
Yep.
They're ready to go, and they're trying to just show whatever, because they don't know when their next rep's going to come sometimes. So they're trying to go out there and do everything they can, and maybe a little overexcited sometimes.
Okay, guys, we'll take a quick break, and then we'll focus maybe on Ross. We'll go back to the defensive line, and maybe we'll talk a little about the run game as well. So we're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. Tonight's show is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer brewed for more taste and only 96 calories. Miller Lite, hold true. Back with more Talking Villanova football after this on 610 ESPN. Welcome back to the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. We're talking Villanova football and head coach Mark Ferrante. We're joined by assistant coach Ross Pennypacker. And Ross, we spent time in that first segment talking about special teams, but you're also the defensive run game coordinator and obviously the defensive line coach. And in the first couple shows, we had Coach Ola Adams on last week as well talking about the defense. But your depth at defensive line this year seems to be at a higher level than I remember it in years past. But talk, and I think that goes to credit to you and your staff in terms of developing players. Talk to me a little bit about the development of young players and getting them ready. It seems like you have 7 guys that are getting consistent reps in your lineup.
Yeah, well, we can start with the guys who've been playing or starting the games. It's been Malik Fisher. Malik Fisher came in. He was a 225-pound defensive end. He's really worked hard. He's about up to over 260 now, so he's put in a lot of hard work. Same thing with Aaron Siegel. Aaron Siegel came in, and he was about 265 last year. This year he's up about to 280, so he's developed into a bigger guy. And Pete Fallon right now, Pete Fallon's about 300 pounds. Pete Fallon was a converted offensive lineman.
Yeah, remember that.
So, we had some depth issues at the nose guard, so he came over and done a good job for us. But all of those guys have really worked hard to get where they've been, and they put on the weight that we've asked them to play. The defensive front that we play in is not an easy technique. Those guys don't get the credit that they may sometimes deserve. They're taking on double teams. They take a pounding so that our linebackers can flow and make plays. So they've done a pretty good job, doing what we've asked them to do in terms of getting their weight up and just really committing themselves to, the betterment of the team, not necessarily going out for their stats. So they've done a good job. And the younger guys, Garrett Zobel has really come along, a guy who we can count on. Mikey Taylor's done a really good job in the pass game. He's more of a pass specialist for us. Owen Thomas has done a good job coming along as well. Put on a lot of weight in the off season, and then a freshman, C.J. Presley, has been getting some reps for us as well. And then you talk about Jared Nelson. Jared Nelson was our most improved player.
Yeah, this is a person I'm thinking of development, and he's been here in the third year of the program, and he worked hard to try to get on the field. Now he's part of your rotation.
Yep. So he's playing the nose guard, and he was a guy that we had started as a defensive end, a four-eye technique, and just kind of relish in the nose guard position because we are pretty deep at the other spots. So we were trying to find a home for him, and he seems to find a comfortness there and done a good job for us. And all the guys we feel like now can play for us. We have, like you said, a lot of depth. I think last year we played with 3 or 4 DNs, all right, and then we play with 2 nose guards. This year I feel comfortable we can play with 3 nose guards, 6 defensive ends. So,
and coach, that obviously keeps players fresh. Limit the number of snaps they have to take. So hopefully late in the, late third quarter, fourth quarter, they're still fresh and able to go out and make plays. But Ross, you talk about the weight they put on. I guess there's that fine line where Malik Fisher, you want him to put on weight so he can stop the run, but you need that edge pass rusher as well. And I guess, is that part of technique? We need you to get to this weight, but also maintain a certain level of athleticism?
Well, yeah, that's part of it, but I think that all the credit there goes to Coach Tucker and his staff, our strength coach. He works really hard with those guys, and, he's going to do everything he can to make sure that they can perform at their highest level.
And Malik's done a great job. I think he leads our team in sacks. And, even though he has put on the added weight, he's kept his athleticism and those type of things. And, where we play those guys, as Ross said, they're not wide ends. They're not. We'll get some of those alignments when it's definite pass downs and things. And sometimes we'll stand up linebackers and bring them off the edge just to have that a little bit more athletic guy, trying to take on a big offensive tackle. But they've done a great job. And it's definitely important to keep them fresh because if you look at the last 2 games, and part of it is, what our defense has been able to do, getting us the ball back in great field position. So we've been, in the last 2 games, I think we've run 20 less plays in the games than our opponent has. So the defense has been on the field more than the offense has from a time and a number of play perspective. So to be able to rotate that many guys through, you keep them fresh. I'm not sure who played the most number of plays of your front 7 guys last week.
Last week, I believe it was Malik. He played 42.
So 42 plays, but they ran 80. You know what I mean? But if you run 80 plays on offense, the majority of your offensive linemen are going to take all 80.
Yeah.
Your quarterback's probably going to take all 80, depending on the outcome of the game. But if it's a close game, your quarterback's going to play all 80, and you're going to rotate a couple running backs on the defense. When you can rotate guys, and the most any D lineman playing is half the plays, then that keeps them all fresh. And, that should help you in that third and fourth quarter especially.
And, Russ, you're also the defensive run game coordinator, as my novice ability. So explain to me what that is.
I'm just there for support on game day.
No, but it's
always done a good job of getting the calls in and all that stuff. It really, the credit goes to him, and it's just a title that Mark threw at me, so he could pay me more.
That's right. Nothing wrong with a new title and more money. We'll all sign up for that, right? I always say, call me whatever you want, just pay me.
Right.
Right. I'll be a GA if you want to pay me.
But Ross, in terms about we talk philosophy on offense a lot. We had Coach Bowden on a couple weeks back about being multi-dimensional. You want to be able to run the ball for a couple hundred yards, pass for a couple hundred yards, and on defense, you want to make teams one-dimensional, right? So I guess you want to take away the run, and try to stuff that and get third and long and second and long, where you can unleash some of this depth and some speed coming off the edge.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you talk to any defensive guy, that's always going to be their first thing. They want to stop the run, and we're going to have our hands full this week doing that again. We play a very good Towson team this week who loves to run the ball. They got some big physical running backs, so we're going to have our hands full, and they have a huge offensive line. So, we're going to find ways to get that done. But if you talk to any defensive guy, you want to make teams one-dimensional. If you can stop the run and get teams throwing the ball, you feel a lot better about turning your guys loose. The D-line and, some of those linebackers on pressures, and then, our secondary can, get eyes on the quarterback and make some plays in the secondary. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much across the board in college football. If you feel like you can stop the run, you have a chance to win.
And our guys have been doing a great job at that the first 3 weeks, I believe. And again, I'm not a big stat guy, so I'll look at it after the game and then kind of try to move on to the next game. But we have held the first 3 opponents to under 100 yards rushing, and I know we're doing well in the rushing category. So hopefully we can continue to do that and go from there and try to make people, as you said, one-dimensional.
Ross, we appreciate you joining us. Best of luck as you guys head down to Towson this Saturday. We'll take a quick break. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. Tonight's show is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer brewed for more taste and only 96 calories. Miller Lite, hold true. Back with more of Talking Villanova football after this on 610 ESPN. Welcome back to Talking Villanova Football with head coach Mark Ferrante. We're coming live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. And, Coach, we've got a special guest join us, fifth-year senior tri-captain Chucky Smith. Chucky, as I mentioned, is fifth year from Newport Park, California, defensive back. And, Chuck, I have something for you. We had Forrest Ryan on last week, and Coach kind of went over the process of selecting captains this year, which have been different from other years. And Coach said he let the guys that, kind of, I want to be a captain, send in a piece of paper, say I want to be considered. And then he had each of you guys kind of get up and talk to the team. And I'm curious, we asked Forrest what he said. I'm curious what your talk to the team was all about.
I just kind of told the truth. I explained my situation with ROTC, and that kind of ended last season. I wasn't sure if I was going to even have the opportunity and be asked to come back to play football, to be honest. And I was fortunate enough, and Coach Ferrante did invite me back. But I was fortunate enough with the ROTC. I had the opportunity to come back without football and kind of just be a student for the last semester. But kind of where the season ended up last year, and I couldn't really see myself being on campus and not being part of the team. So I kind of decided, because I wanted to come back, to kind of do what I could to help make the team and kind of help change the end of last season and kind of just do what I can to help players progress coming up and just try to help out as much as I could.
And why don't you explain to everybody, I know we may have talked about some of this last year, but I'm sure your role has changed from last fall to where you are now with the ROTC program. What is your actual, not involvement, but rank, and who are the people you're leading there as well?
So you get different billets in ROTC. This semester I'm platoon commander. So it just means I'm in charge of a couple squad leaders, and they have kind of the squads below them. So it's just kind of the structure kind of going down. ROTC, there's still people above me and there's people below me, so you just kind of get different leadership opportunities.
So you're the head coach of your squad?
Of my squad, yes. I still have. I
got a couple general managers.
We all got people above us, Chuck. Yeah. Believe me, we all do. So, well, that's great. And then, as you said, Steve, we waited longer to vote, and Chucky was an overwhelming favorite, along with Forrest and Cub and these three guys. And Chucky just does everything right. I know we've talked about this before, you and I, but there's mornings where we start at 6:40. We start breakfast. We have breakfast delivered at 6:30. All right, and then we go 6:45 special teams meeting, and then we go positional meeting, and then we're on the field at 8:15. Well, that's the football team. How early does your day start from time to time? Are you still getting up earlier than that like you did last year, or are you not running and doing some of the things prior to 6:30?
No, I'm still running. So ROTC, we're mustering at like 5:45 out there on the field, but it's just kind of with the timing-wise, because I got to get uniform ready. I got to kind of get stuff ready for the rest of the day because I don't get to go back to my dorm afterwards. I kind of got to be up at 4:50, 5 o'clock to get in there.
So he's well ahead of the rest of us.
He's ready for lunch. Yeah, he's ready for lunch when he meets with you guys. Never mind breakfast.
Right.
But Coach Pennypacker came up. We were talking about special teams, and they talked about trust. And I got a good feeling that Chucky might be at the top of that list most weeks.
Yeah, he's definitely high on the trust chart for sure. And he's that's really where Chucky, really we noticed him as much, more than anything else was the special teams. And he's just each week we also pick a special teams player of the game, and we also pick a special teams. We've picked special teams captains over the last few years, and he could have been that guy just about every game.
Yeah.
You try to spread the wealth when you give out those game awards or game captains and so on, but he's a guy that you could pick every single week a year ago, and he's continuing to do the same thing this year.
And Chucky, I want to ask you, I guess special teams it can be a mindset for all players, but I guess there's certain players on there that are happy for an opportunity to be on the field. There's probably some guys on there that want to be the starting safety or the starting linebacker or the starting running back that say, I don't want to be on special teams. I want to be on offense. I want to be on defense. I'm assuming with your leadership and your ROTC background that you try to instill that on guys that maybe have that other mindset and try to help change that, where this is an opportunity and you're going to lead these guys?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's where I got my start, so hopefully other people see that too. I was not getting as much time as a lot of other people on defense, so when I got the opportunity in special teams, and Coach Ola really started that and kind of gave me the opportunities. Whenever I got a chance, I was just trying to do my best, and I think hopefully some of the guys can see that and kind of see that is a pathway.
And as you mentioned at the opening, Steve, Chucky came in from California, and he was a walk-on. He wasn't recruited as, a scholarship level performer and so on. So he came in as a walk-on and, really earned his stripes. And, special teams is where he really, excelled at and so on and so forth. And then now as he's graduated undergrad and into the graduate school program and still involved with ROTC, going from a freshman walk-on from California to now one of our tri-captains, as you stated, and on scholarship. That speaks volumes of what he's done and what he's meant to our program.
Chuck, do you know when you're headed when you're done? Do you have I'm heading to California, or where is the Navy sending? And when do you finish up? Do you finish up in December?
Yeah, I'll be commissioned in the Navy in December. I'll find out the second week of October, I think, where I'll go. So I still don't know for sure yet.
Do you have options? Do they told you it's one of these three spots?
I put in a preference sheet. I put first option for flight school down in Pensacola, Florida. So hopefully, cards will in.
And what does that entail? How many years is flight school?
Flight school is 1.5 to 2 years, and then 5 to 6 years of service after that.
So he's a
special guy.
Pretty well planned guy, right? He's got it all planned out. Definitely.
And Chuck, obviously you said you had some choices, and Coach Ferrante had some choices at the end of the year. Talk to me a little bit about what goes into that decision. And obviously you're at a place you feel special about, because you could have said you had options to do other things, but football was so important to you. I guess, someone that joins the military like yourself, being a part of a team or being part of something more than yourself is just kind of how you've been raised and really important to you. Can you speak to us a little bit about that?
Well, for me, I just think it's football is kind of the guys that I'd grown up at Villanova with. They were kind of my family. They took me in, especially being from California. All the breaks we had. I was going to buddy's house. I was sleeping over there. I was spending Thanksgiving or whatever with other families. So I just couldn't really see myself, those being my friends, just being on campus and not helping them out. I watch and they lose a game by 3 points or something, and I'm watching the stands, and I could have been down there helping them out or taking the load off some of the guys. It's when you're part of a team, it's just you can't really do that.
Yeah, he's just a special guy. He's an awesome leader. He is vocal when he needs to be. Obviously leads by example as well, and just does a phenomenal job. And when he was selected captain this past year, it was just I don't want to say I anticipated it or expected it, but
you weren't surprised.
It didn't surprise me, no, to have Chucky elected captain. That was awesome.
And Chucky, I'll call it a calling. Maybe it's not a calling, but when you decide you want to be a part of the military, how old are you? What's your thought process? Do you have is your mom and dad involved? Do you have grandparents involved? Was it something that you kind of came up with in high school and said, "Hey, I want to get involved in an ROTC program"? How did it all come about?
Not really. My dad and my grandpa both served. But coming out of high school, I remember my dad took me to a recruiting trip to the Naval Academy, and I didn't want to go there. I didn't want to be involved in the military at all. But kind of getting some independence first 2 years, I started reading a couple books about military and about different stories like that. And kind of just, I don't know, called to me. That's the kind of people I wanted to be around. There's a lot of good, hardworking people in that community, and that was just kind of, especially I think, listening to my dad's kind of war stories growing up all the time and hearing all the fun time he had. I think definitely just called to me.
What branch were they in? What was your dad and your grandfather?
Dad was a Marine pilot. Grandpa was in the Army.
Okay, there you go.
So some good stock.
Yeah, no doubt. Pretty well disciplined at home, I'm sure.
Yeah, not a lot, you need a lot of coaching from the discipline side from you guys. That's for darn sure. But Chuck, we really appreciate you joining us today. We wish you the best luck as you guys head down to Townsend in the rest of the year, and then obviously we appreciate your service and what you'll be doing well after December. We wish you luck. Hopefully that flight school thing comes through for you.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We're going to take a quick break here. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. Tonight's show is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer brewed for more taste and only 96 calories. Miller Lite, hold true. Back with more of Talking Villanova football after this on 610 ESPN. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, back here talking Villanova football with head coach Mark Ferrante. And coaches, you guys wrapped up the non-league portion of your schedule. You got to be, obviously really happy. Can't do better than 3-0 if you play 3 games. But now it's back to the CAA. For 8 of your 9 remaining games will be league contests. You play LIU later in November in a non-league affair. But this is a gauntlet. You got 6 teams ranked out of 12. Half your league's in the top 25, and you guys start off with a top 5 team in Towson. So let's talk a little bit about the league.
Yeah, and this league is, we've talked about it over the years. It's a crazy league. They call it the SEC of FCS football. But no matter who you play, it's going to be a challenge. We talk about it all the time. You look at last year. Maine preseason I think was predicted to finish 10th, and they go to the Final Four. Yep. So, regardless of who you're playing, and yes, this week we do play a very formidable opponent in Towson. They look, I mentioned this earlier today to somebody, they look kind of similar to us. They're fast on defense. They're athletic on defense. They rotate a lot of guys through, and we just talked to Ross, and we kind of do the same thing there on defense as well. And they're a little bigger than us probably on defense. They have some guys inside. We have 1 or 2 300-pounders. They have a few more than that, and they're experienced. and they have some guys that run around. On offense, they also spread the ball around. They have a real good receiving core, and they have good running backs. And Flacco is a playmaker guy. He can extend plays. He gets the ball downfield. He can extend plays. His eyes are always downfield, so if he gets flushed out of the pocket, he's not just going to tuck it down and run, although he can run. And I think he led them in rushing in last week's game up at Maine. So, they have a lot of playmakers. They do a lot of good things, and it's going to be an interesting game to say the least. But again, almost no matter who you're playing in this league, it's going to be an interesting game. And this is our first opportunity to have a league game and a league opponent. So to go up against Towson, the trip's not too bad. It's a little less than 2 hours away. So we'll go down on Friday night, and it's another 6 o'clock game. So it's our third one of those in a row. So hopefully by now we've kind of got adjusted to the 6 o'clock game, because it's something that it's just different. We practice in the morning during the course of the week, and a lot of our games, our opening game was at noon, and we play a lot of games that are at 1 o'clock, and now all of a sudden you have another 6 o'clock game. So it's just a little different as far as your preparation throughout the day and sitting around in a hotel and so on. It's different being away at 6 o'clock too than it is being home.
Sure.
But our guys did a great job this past weekend up at Bucknell, handling the 6 o'clock start. So hopefully we'll be able to do the same this weekend.
And the league, usually you talk about that, got to hold your home court and your home field. You got to win those games at home. The road's been very good to the league. Delaware early on goes up to Rhode Island, wins a double overtime game. Towson last week goes up to Maine and wins a big game. We saw Elon go on the road and get a win over Richmond. So we're kind of hoping that road theory keeps going in for another week.
That. If that's going to continue, I'm good.
Let's talk about it. You talk about the teams and just the ability of in this league to try to win road games. It's every game. I think I saw Tony Trisciano from Elon said the same thing. Hey, any road win we can get in this league is gravy, and you guys are going to try to go down Saturday and get that done.
Yeah, no doubt. It's just different. You're in unfamiliar territory sometime. Now we've been to Towson before, so and we have enough guys on the team that have been there before. But it's just a different feel when you're on the road. When you're in a hotel, you're not in your own dorm, you're not in your own bed. You're kind of held captive to that hotel because you're not out. At home game, they could go from somewhere on campus and over to another teammate's room or something like that, or get down to the dining hall and so on and so forth. But in a hotel, you're just a little more confined. It's just different. It's just a different feel. And we just got to come out and hopefully play an error-free game and continue to protect the football. And if we, as we said earlier, if we can keep getting defensive turnovers and defensive scores, that would be huge.
Coach, we're going to take one last break, and then we'll finish up with the Towson Tigers after this. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. Tonight's show is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer brewed for more taste and only 96 calories. Miller Lite, hold true. Back with more of Talking Villanova football after this on 610 ESPN. Welcome back to Talking Villanova Football with head coach Mark Ferrante. We're live from the Inn at Villanova University, located at 601 County Line Road in Radnor. As we were talking, Coach, Towson 3-0 this year. Beat the Citadel 28-21. They opened their season. They beat North Carolina A&T 42-3, and then we talked about their road win last weekend, go up against a top 10 Maine team who went to the Final Four last year, as you mentioned, 45-23. They're led by Tom Flacco, who was the preseason offensive player in the year in the CA. Had a really good game against us last year, so you know all about him.
Yeah, he's a good player. He just makes plays. He was the CA Offensive Player of the Year in the conference last year, his first year as a starter down there. And then, obviously he's the preseason. He threw for over 3,000 yards, ran for, probably 700-800 yards as well. So he is a guy that makes it go, and he does a lot of great things. And last year's game, it was like a heavyweight fight. You know, it really was. We got out the first couple rounds. We scored the first 2 touchdowns. It was 14-0. We had them pinned deep. We were pretty much. It may have gotten to 21-0. Now that I'm thinking about it, and you know, we had them pinned deep, and they were going to punt from their end zone, but we got called for a piling on, a late hit. So
not a good call, by the way.
Well, you know, but,
I can say you can't.
They got that first down, and then 2 plays later, they hit a quick slant to Leatherbury, who's back, one of their wide receivers. He took it 70-plus yards and scored, and then they got another score off the next kickoff. You know, one of the biggest hits I've ever seen.
Poor Jalen.
Yeedy Thenrat hit our returner, Jalen Jackson. Ball came out. Troy Vincent's son, scooped and scored. So next thing you know, we go from I don't want to say a commanding lead or anything, but we're definitely out in front early on. So we won the first couple rounds. Then they went bang, bang, bang. Next thing you know, it's 35-21 at halftime, their lead. And, you know, we came out in the second half. We got 35-28, so we won a round. Then they went 42-28. Then we got 42-25. And then they had a really long drive and kept us off the field for a while and got that field goal to put them up by 10, and that was the winning margin. Yeah. So it was a definite heavyweight fight, like I said, blows going back and forth. Typical CAA game. You know, it's fast, it's physical, and I don't expect much less this year, to be honest with you.
And it seems like, you know, teams have a certain personality. For Towson over the years, coming to see them and going down to United Stadium, always big and physical. It looks like, you know, you mentioned they got maybe a couple more 300-pounders than most teams. It seems that's the way they try to recruit those bigger physical guys up front.
Yeah, they do. They must do a great job. You know, as Ross was saying earlier, their strength coach develops their guys that they bring in, and, you know, they have a few transfers that they've gotten from some of the bigger programs. So, you know, that's just part of it, and that happens from time to time. You know, we got to transfer ourselves this year in our quarterback. So, you know, it's nothing that we do a ton of, but, you know, they have some of those guys that they bring in from, you know, guys that maybe, like I know they have a D lineman from Michigan but he's a Camden, New Jersey guy. So, you know, he's come back to home and kind of bounced back a little bit. So, but Rob does a great job. Rob's been there a while now, and, you know, obviously in 2013 they went to the championship and so on, and, you know, he does a great job, and they went to the playoffs last year, and, you know, the league's very balanced as always, and I don't anticipate it being too much different this year. I'm sure there's going to be guys just slugging it out, and there'll be weeks where you'll be like, okay, they beat them, and, you know, how did they beat them? But that just happens in our league because there's so much parity. I mean, when you look at last year's records of the whole league, you know, Maine had the best record at 8-3, and then we had 4 teams at 7-4, and then Elon, because their one game got canceled with the, you know,
storm,
bad weather down there, they were 6-4, and all 5 of them made the playoffs. So that speaks volumes of the respect that everyone else throughout the country has for our league, to have that many teams at 7-4, one team at 6-4, and an 8-3 team all get a playoff bid. So, you know, it's just tough competition week in and week out, and we're away this week. Then we are home, and then we have 2 more road trips. So the next 4 weeks, we're only home one of the 4
So your first
times.
4 league games, 3 of them are on the road.
We're kind of selling it as being road warriors, and, you know, that's kind of the approach we've taken. So, you know, our guys are doing a good job, and they've been responding, and they've come in and prepared well and so on. And we had Tuesday's practice, so, you know, that went pretty well. But, you know, we just got to continue to work hard with our preparation, hopefully go in there and play a clean, consistent game.
Yeah, Coach, best of luck. Look forward to heading down 95 and seeing you guys on Saturday night. So that wraps up Talking Villanova Football with head coach Mark Ferrante. Tonight's show is presented by Miller Lite, the original light beer brewed for more taste in only 96 hours. Miller Lite, hold true. Thanks to our host, The Inn at Villanova University. Thanks to Joe Gaines and Ryan Lennox back at the studio. Tune in at 6:10 ESPN when Villanova takes on the Towson Tigers this Saturday, September 21st. Game time is 6 o'clock. Our pregame show will begin at 5:45. Our next Talking Villanova Football will be next Tuesday, September 24th at 7 p.m. For Coach Mark Ferrante, this is Steve Pannone. Thanks for listening to 610 ESPN.